Hello, everyone. Jak Syn here on behalf of Fiend.com and Future Daze, and today it is another exciting episode of Artist Interviews. Today I am sitting with Alan Oakes of Em Riot. How you doing today, Alan?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Oh, I'm so glad you could be on this show today. I'm so glad that we can have this chance to talk and discuss all the great things that you have going on right now. I know with everything happening in the world, it's just the little things that we can take pleasure in. Am I right?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And the little things that we do to keep us sane, um, keep us busy. It's I've been doing little things here and there, trying new stuff out. Just to keep myself busy and occupied.
Well, that's so awesome to hear. It really is awesome because, day in and day out, whether you're working from home or whether you're going out to an essential job, always just take as much precaution as you can and always try to leave time for you mentally. Am I right?
Exactly. What are you doing right now? What are the little things that you're doing?
So for me personally, I am working on releasing some new music.
Awesome. That's what I
I
was
am
hoping to
working
hear.
on, yeah, I am working on trying to release some new music. I do have things planned and ready to go. But I'm gonna do things a little bit different. It's been a while since I put out anything, so I'm kind of getting little talking to different people, getting ideas of certain things. I'm working on artwork for the new single that I'm gonna do, stuff
Awesome.
like that. So I'm getting that
Yeah.
stuff planned out. How about you?
Like you trying new things musically. I find that now's a good time to kind of just venture out and see if I can find inspiration. And other things. I've been reading a lot more. Been playing more video games. That seems to fill up my time pretty well. But like new music, like I'm always working on new material, but I thought maybe now's a good time to try something new. So I'm working on a lo-fi record that maybe may or may not eventually come out. Who knows? But I'm like 7 tracks into a new, a, you know, a new style of music, and I'm having fun with it. So I'm just like, we'll see where it goes, and I don't know. Maybe by the end of the year, I'll have another record out.
Man, that is awesome to hear. That is awesome to hear. Right here, everybody, you heard it first. Right here from Alan. He
Right?
just dropped a bombshell on you. So
Yeah.
get ready to check that out when that one comes out. I mean, for me, other than the music stuff, I've just been kind of trying to draw more, playing some video games. And the thing is like I've
Right.
haven't had a lot of time in the past to play video games, and I don't have a new console or anything like that. I still have a PlayStation 3, but I'm like kind of going through some of my old titles that I have and things like that, and
Yeah.
even playing Skyrim. And as funny as that is, it's like it's a game that like never ends, and
Exactly.
it's so long. It's so
Yeah.
long.
It's perfect, and you could be on hours. Like right now, I got back into World of Warcraft, so I got back into raiding, which I haven't done in like 10, almost 15 years. And so I'm in a guild, and we're doing like 4 or 5 hour raids, and that I'm just like that eats up a good portion of my time. Probably a little bit more than I should. I'm spending on video games, but it is what it is.
Well, it's the like you said, it's the little things. And
Yeah.
aside from that, I'm helping my girlfriend with her travel business. I'm helping,
Oh,
her
cool.
with her business, her Wonderland Adventure Company business. And during all of this and everything happening in the world, there are still people who want to plan travel for, things coming up in the future.
Yeah.
So, everybody out there, it's like when 2021 hits, oh, be ready because a lot of things are going to start coming back. I'll tell you that
Right.
right now.
And that's the thing that I'm, looking forward to the most is traveling, playing shows. I mean, I am just dying to play shows again. It was really such a big bummer, like all the shows I had to cancel this year. But you understand, but at the same time, it's just, it's a bummer because that's probably the one thing that I enjoy most. Um, with doing music is getting to travel, getting to see new faces, and getting to play in different cities. So that's what I'm looking forward to most.
I hear you there. I hear you there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking back, at back in since March, I guess you could say here, especially here in the United States, it's like
Yeah.
the proverbial rug ripped right out from under us and
Right?
fell flat on our faces, and everything just red across the board, canceled.
Yeah. And it was tough at at the end of February. I went back east and played a show in New York, and and this was just literally 2 weeks before the lockdown, and I'm just like, man, it's like if we had scheduled the show like a week later or 2 weeks later, it wouldn't have happened. And it was just crazy. It was just like 1 second we're chugging along, and we're doing shows, we're going to shows, and we're having fun, and then next minute it's all gone. So it was kind of big, like a slap in the face. It was like reality just kind of hit everybody real quick.
Like we were there in New York in January. We were there in January, and there for New Year's Eve. I was celebrating New Year's Eve with friends too, and but also was there to do the Nightwave event, for the New Year's Eve thing. So it was like a month or two later, it's like all of a sudden everything gets taken away. And we were in San Francisco during like right there at the tail end of February. It was during Chinese New Year, and they had just put in that imposed that travel ban on Wuhan. So it was like when we were, and remember we were driving home going like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? And this was just after we had done our San Francisco San Junipero, and it was like, then all of a sudden, red. I was like, oh no, what is going on in the world?
Yeah.
But I think we've adapted.
Yeah, we've, I feel like, we're all still, for the most part, pretty sane. And, we're all getting through. I mean, it's rough, but yeah, it's, like I said, keeping busy is kind of like, like the secret for times like this is just keep yourself busy.
Yes, keeping yourself busy, working on those things that you haven't had time to work on in the past.
Right. Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Diving into new things too.
And trying new things. I think that's that's great, because when you try new things, you find more areas for inspiration, and and who knows what leads down that road. So it's always good. Take that time to try something new.
You are definitely right, Alan. You are definitely right. So today we're going to ask you a couple of questions and see where it goes from here. Are you ready to get into it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
What are 3 of your most memorable moments from your music career?
I'd have to say, like I mentioned earlier, I love to travel. I love meeting new faces. Years ago, I got to tour Europe with an old band. And that sticks out as probably like just the pinnacle of, I think every musician is, just getting to travel and for somebody, from Southern California, being 18, 19 years old and, playing shows in, London and, Berlin and stuff like that is probably just like, it's surreal. And so, getting that opportunity back then is probably my most memorable moment. And I think, just something that I strive to do. Like, I hope to be able to get back to Europe and maybe, visit some other places. I would love to go to Japan, so I think that would be cool. But yeah, I think, traveling to Europe is probably most memorable. When I was 17, I got to open up for Dave Wakeling from the English Beat, and meeting Dave was probably just, that'll always stay with me. And I remember after his set, he walked over and he bought one of my band's t-shirts. And I was like, really? You want a t-shirt? And he's like, hell yeah, I want a t-shirt. So yeah, that's another memorable moment. And I think another one, when I was like 16, I got to open up for Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's. She had a rock band in like the mid to late 90s. And so getting to meet her and open up for her was probably another memorable moment for me.
Those are some pretty damn memorable moments right there, I'll tell you that. I mean, like being able to go at a young age, being able to go overseas, being able to go and tour Europe. I mean, for somebody who's young, you get there and you're kind of, I'm sure, just looking around going, wow, where am I? I'm fish out of water. I don't, this is an
Right.
amazing experience. And then transitioning, to some of the other things that you've done, like being able to open for some of those amazing performers that you just mentioned. I mean,
Yeah.
that right there, you're just kind of going like, this is really happening. You know what I mean?
And I was at such a young age, it was really hard to appreciate it. Because as you get older, you're just like, wow, that's crazy that it happened. And looking back at it, I can appreciate it more than I could when I was young. Cause it's just, I'm just like, oh yeah, there's Dave Wakeling and we're opening up for him. But now I'm just like, dude, that was a big moment. So, yeah, I can appreciate it more now than I did back then.
I totally understand. I mean, when I was younger, I met Christopher Reeve, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time when I met Christopher Reeve, I didn't think I said, oh, he's Superman, right?
Right.
But I think if the older me had went back to the younger me, would have went back and just slapped me in the back of the head and said, appreciate this more. Do you know who this man is? You know what I
Right.
mean? So,
Yeah, the extent of his career, it's pretty crazy.
so I think, a lot of the time when we're younger, like we don't really get that kind of like, we go, oh, this is cool, but you don't ever really get that moment where you're kind of going like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Like I can really appreciate and savor this moment. You kind of have to, it's only when you're older that you kind of really like take that time to reflect and go, this was a pinnacle moment. Like
Yeah.
this was that moment in my life where I was like, wow, I got to really experience this with somebody or meet
Yeah.
this person. That's just amazing. I got to do that.
Exactly. And as you get older, you try to be a little bit more appreciative, and I try to take the time to really enjoy things, more than maybe I had in my younger years, so it's like it's cool. Like, like I said, when I was like 18, 19, going to Europe, I just thought, oh, well, that's what everybody does. You join a band and you end up in Europe. And it wasn't until years later that I realized, well, you know what? It's not that easy getting to Europe. It's not like you just pick up the phone and call somebody and book a tour, So it's like, now I can appreciate stuff like that more. And just, every time I get on a plane and get to go visit somewhere and play a show in front of people, I feel really grateful for having the opportunity to be there and meet these people in person and spend time with them. And, it's a great feeling. And I try to take that in whenever I, do something musically. I just try to take it all in.
Well, that is awesome right there. And I think that rings true for a lot of people out there. It's like when you're able to travel and you're able to go and share your music and your creativity with people out there who are chomping at the bit to see you live, or
Yeah.
going to experience something that they've never experienced before, or just going out because their friends wanted to and then they have a great time. I think that makes it all the worth it right there.
It really does. Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite album / EP that you've ever worked on?
I don't know if I have like a favorite album. I've been working out of my home studio for like the last 15 years. So everything kind of just like blends together. It's like, cause it's just constant working on music. So it's really hard to have those definitive like albums or EPs, cause it just feels like all one big blur, with this last record that I did, I was, working on the record, but then I was still doing like all kinds of other stuff on the side. So it just, I don't know, it was kind of hard to define it as a moment in time. But I will say this, I do, my most memorable moments working on music are probably the times, back when I used to work out of, just go into the studio. Just going into a physical studio made it seem like an event, like if you're going in to record an EP, that's all you're working on for, weeks or months at a time, just every day, that schedule, just waking up, going to the studio, working all day, coming home, going to sleep. And then when you're in the studio, that's all you're focused on, is just working on that particular song or that particular record every day, all day. Um, that's what I remember most when working on music, is just those times. Like I can recall like, certain like, oh, that record when we were in the studio, yeah, we were doing this and this happened, blah, blah. So I do remember those better, but nowadays when you're in the home studio, it's a lot different. It's just kind of like, especially when you have like a full-time job and, a family, mortgage, it's like, working on music is more of kind of like, you have to squeeze that into your schedule sometimes. So it's usually like 2 hours a night, and you do that just every night and you just every night, just go in, work on, some music for a couple hours. It feels a lot different, and everything just sorts to blend together. You're like, okay, tonight I worked a little bit on this part, and then I opened up this session and worked a little bit on this part. So it was just kind of, I don't know. So I'd have to say, long story short, yeah, working out of the studio was probably, like my favorite moments working on albums.
You're right. I mean, back in the day, it's like when I was in my first and second band that I was ever in, it was like we would go to the recording studio. You'd pay, you'd go to the studio, go to record your album, and it was like every day you were in there. You were in there every day. It's like you go home, but then you'd spend. It was more than it. I mean, it was like 8-hour day that you were spending in that place. You get there at like 10, you wouldn't leave until like 7 or 8 p.m. And that was it. You were just focused on that. That's what you were focused on. That's what you were doing. Now, a lot of stuff that you're producing now, that a lot of people creating music and stuff like that, it's like we're working from home. We're a lot of home-based artists. We have that stuff that we can do here. But nothing beats that feeling. And it was a funny little story here, because I remember like my old girlfriend, she was like, oh, I want to go see you guys at the recording studio. I want to go hang out for a recording session.
Yeah.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Because
it is the most boring. I mean, if to people just coming in and hanging out, it is boring. And I remember, girlfriends going, oh, I'll just sit on the couch and watch TV. If the studio has a TV, if it's like, it's like, that was like high living. If the studio had a lounge area with a TV, it's like a lot of studios I worked out of back in the day. I mean, we couldn't afford much. So, it's like if we needed 8 hours, sometimes all you could afford was some like dingy, like 1-room studio to record out of. So, yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. It was like after that, I go, no, you don't want to. And then like, I would tell everybody like that. I'm like, oh, you don't want to go. Friends would be like, oh, let's go hang out. I want to hear you guys. No, you don't. You don't want to do that, because it's going to be the most boring thing ever, because I'm here with 4 other guys in this room, and then the recording person too, and we all know what we're working on, and he knows what we're working on, but you don't know what we're working on. You're sitting there and we're just constantly going over these tracks, listening, and you're just sitting over there melding into the couch, not doing anything,
And they're hearing the same line just being repeated over and over and over again. I mean, and it can be, it can be pretty nauseating to somebody who's like, who's not really paying attention. They're just hearing the same, just 8-bar loop over and over and over again.
And they're kind of going like, they're like, yeah, I'm going to need a little more breath on that vocal part. Okay, I'm going to do a little more breathy. And you do a little more breathy, and they go, well, I need a little bit more higher here. And the person on the couch is going like, what the fuck is going on right now?
They're like, it all sounds the same.
It all sounds exactly the same. One of the things I do want to touch on is your newest album that you have out years later. I've listened to it. It is amazing. It is an amazing release. It is very eclectic in its sound too. What I love about it is that because it's so fluid, it works really, really, really well. Like from the vocals to the synth parts to the drums, the bass lines, like everything that you put into that album, oh, it's just magic.
Thank you. I really, really do appreciate that. It was 2 years in the making, pretty much. I didn't really know where, as far as direction or stuff like that. I'm not used to working on 10 songs at a time. It's just because my time is so limited. I usually do like 3-5 songs. It was just a long process, and I'm glad that people are responding to it. You know, because you always worry about that. Is it too much? You know, you try to do new things, try new things, because the last thing you want to do is make the same record that you made, you know, the last 3 records. So you try to do new stuff, but it's a weird balancing act. You don't want to go too off the rails, because then people will be just like, what is this? I don't get it. So you know, yeah, so trying new stuff while still, you know, staying true to whatever, you know, what it is that you do. You know, it can be, it's a fine, you know, it's a balancing act, you know. So I appreciate it that
I really do enjoy it, and I know a lot of other people out there really enjoy it too. I was in an earlier interview. I was talking with Das Mortal, and what we were talking about is that versatility in music, and like how he tries to experiment with some of his stuff, but at the core, who he is. Same with you, Alan. Like keeping your sound at its core, like keeping that creativity at its core. You like listen to it and you go, this sounds like Let 'Em Riot. This right here sounds like him. Like, you know. And like for me listening to your music, like I can tell this is Alan's stuff right here. It's got this stamp. It sounds like Alan's stuff.
awesome.
You know, and I get that whenever I listen to your stuff. I go, oh, I already know it. I know it. I know it's him.
That's
you
cool.
know?
I think, you know, for anybody just kind of trying to find that unique, that voice that's uniquely yours, I think is kind of like every musician's, you know, goal. You know, so to hear you say that, it's awesome. So, you know, I like having the ability to try new things and still sound like me. You know, because you know, I think with all music should have the room to grow, to progress. You know, and so to be able to do that, I think that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to hear.
You know what? From Ready to Start all the way to the Say at the end of the album, like you have created a really versatile rainbow that you play with in there. Because from the very first track, you kind of go, this is Let 'Em Riot, but it sounds a little bit different. It sounds a little bit, you know, experimental in some parts, you know,
Yeah.
and then you transition to the album and you go, all right, this one sounds really awesome. This sounds a little softer. This one sounds really dynamic. This one sounds cinematic. This one sounds very emotional. You know, so you have a nice like wave going on in your album there. So thank you for putting out that amazing piece of work.
I know I appreciate the kind words. You know, the one thing I remember when working on this record is that I wanted more guitars. That was the only thing I went into the project, you know, with that idea. I didn't want to like confine myself to anything else, but I just said, you know what, I want to make a record with more guitars. Only because I grew up as a guitar player. You know, I started playing guitar, you know, when I was like 11, and it's just, and it was one of those things that I lost when I started doing electronic music and producing on, you know, on my computer. So I just said, I really want to bring that back. And the fact that, you know, I had already brought back my guitar playing live, you know, just cause I'm not a very good keyboardist or, you know, synth player. I'm a guitar player. So I brought it back live, and I just, by bringing it back live, I learned how much I remembered, you know, how much I loved it and how versatile it can be, and how much, you know, more emotion I can give off playing guitar rather than playing synth. So I was just like, I really should put that on a record. So I hope I did.
You did. You really, really did. I mean, you kind of, did you have one of those moments where Christopher Walken came and was like, listen, I got a fever, and the only prescription is more guitar.
Right.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. I wanted to, I don't know. I just said, I really need to find a way to incorporate that, you know, a lot of, and you know, some people be like, well, you know, it's not synth based, it's guitar based. Well, you know, it's like, I always kind of said, well, it's retro. I find myself to be a retro artist, or, you know, more than a synth based artist. You know, and I think there's a difference, you know, because there are people that are just really good at synths and, you know, and playing and stuff like that. And so, you know, what they do is, you know, it's just amazing. So I wanted to bring back the guitars, but in a retro way, you know, because a lot of my favorite bands growing up in the 80s all had guitars. So I'm just like, got to do that. Just all you got to do is put a lot of chorus on the guitar. And
Yeah.
there you go. It sounds retro.
Well, there you go. There you have it, people, right there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Guitar bass, synth bass, doesn't matter. If it's got that vibe to it, it's got that retro feel to it,
Yeah,
all falls under the big spectrum and that big rainbow that we have of this amazing sound. So thank
exactly.
you.
It's just, it's that aesthetic, that retro vibe, you know, nostalgia. It still has all that. It doesn't necessarily have to be synths, you know.
Exactly, exactly. It does not.
Yeah.
So as long as you feel it inside of your heart and go, wow, this is that feeling I get from listening to it, then you got the right thing going right there.
Right. As long as it brings you back to those days, you know, when you're just a kid, you know, running around the street, listening to records and, you know, having fun. I mean, I think that's, you know, that's the main thing that I go for and try to, you know, if the song takes me back, then I think it's good.
What was the drive behind getting you into making music and performing?
You know, growing up, I always knew I wanted to play music. I think when I was like 7, my parents bought me a drum set. Um, Before that, I took piano lessons. Didn't really like that, but then I got a drum set for like Christmas, and my parents didn't really like that because it was really noisy. But I always picked, you know, and maybe, you know, when I was like 10 or 11, I started playing guitar. So I always just had that drive of playing music, and more specifically being in a band. I don't know what it was, but I remember when I was like a kid, you know, like elementary school, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to start a band and I'm going to name it this. And then I would just start drawing logos, you know, it's just like, okay, the name of the band's going to be this. This is what the logo is going to look like. And I was already putting bands together in my head, even though I couldn't play an instrument. Um, and I didn't know anybody else who could play an instrument, but I was just, you know, I don't know. I don't know exactly what drove me, but as far back as I can remember, I was saying I want to be in a band. I want to play shows, you know, and be up on stage. And so, you know, when I was like, you know, got into high school, you know, started my, you know, joined my first band, and you know, I got a taste for that, just being on stage and playing in front of people, and it was just everything that I thought it would be, and I got hooked. And I think when I was 16, I did my first road trip with my band. I think I was like a freshman. Yeah, I was like my freshman summer going into sophomore year. We took a trip up to Berkeley, and we played Gilman Street. I don't know if you're familiar with Berkeley, but Gilman Street is kind of like it's where, you know, bands like Op IV, Rancid, Green Day, that whole Bay Area punk scene came about. I mean, it just, and this is all in the mid 90s. I think this was like 96. And so, you know, I was already a fan of all those bands. So being able, like 16 years old, I'm like, holy shit, I'm going up to play, you know, Gilman Street in Berkeley. And, you know, we opened up for this band called Tilt. And I don't know if, I mean, they are just like, they never got as big as like Green Day, but they're just in that circle of just that Bay Area punk. And they were just an amazing band, and just getting to play with them was just awesome. So having that just all culminate, I was just like, yeah, this is for me. Even though I always had an inclination that that's what I wanted to do.
Well, you knew from a young age that you were like, I am going to start a band. I'm going to I'm going to get this going whatever way that I have to. And then
Yeah.
as you got older, it's like you come to find that you meet people that you meld with, you know, start working with friends, and you kind of go like, hey, you know how to play an instrument, I know how to play an instrument too, let's start working together, let's make peanut butter and jelly.
Right.
And before you know it, you're playing shows, and it becomes second nature to you. Wherever that journey takes you, it doesn't matter in your life, it's like you always kind of go back to those earlier moments and go, I kind of knew something then. I knew something like inherently inside of me. There was something in my in my being that was pulling me in this
Right.
direction somehow.
Right. And yeah, it's, I grew up knowing it, but I think when I started like playing and traveling and doing shows, that was my confirmation. Like I made the right decision. Because a lot of people will do it and they just, I've had bandmates to be like, you know what, this just isn't for me. I don't like being on the road. I don't like, living out of a, duffel bag and, roughing it on the, on the road. And so, but for me, I loved every miserable second of it. It's just like, showing up to a venue and, and just dealing with promoters and like trying to stiff you on gas money. And, it's just like everything that could go wrong went wrong in those early years for me, but I still loved every minute of it. Like I'm like, yeah, this is it,
You did know, you knew. And it's funny that you bring up that stuff about touring. It's like, yeah, some people can do it. Some people can't do it. I know
Yeah.
for, it's like touring. Okay, the funny part about it is touring in your 20s, you don't give a shit. Touring
Exactly.
in your 30s,
Yeah.
touring in your 30s is so much different than touring in your 20s. Because in your 20s, you don't care if you got to sleep in a van, whatever you got to do, sleep on the floor, you don't care.
And I've done it. I've done it all. I mean, yeah, I just had my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, like I said, I got a wife and kid, I got a mortgage. I unfortunately could not do it like I used to do it back in my early 20s. But yeah, back then, man, I didn't care. I always tell people, like, you don't know rough it until you've had to sleep sitting straight up, because there was no room in the van to lay down.
No, yeah, yeah. You know what it's like? It's
just
like Jackie Boy right here needs a shower, needs a hotel room, needs a nice comfy bed. You know what I mean?
Now I'm like, hey, if there's no shower or bed, I ain't going. But back then I'm just like, I don't care. Yeah, okay, we got to sleep in the van, that's fine. But just find a dark alley, pull it over, and we'll just sleep there.
Yeah, and you got hairspray in your hair, you smell like cigarettes and like alcohol from the night before. You try to freshen up as best you can. You do a little bit of sink, you do one of those sponge baths in the sink, whatever you got to do. Even at the venue, so it's a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the only time you ate is when you got to the venue.
Exactly. That was the time that you ate, and you only probably had like a few minutes to do it, or it's like you do your sound check and then you're like, okay, we got an hour before we have to perform.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So now I got to go find a burrito somewhere.
Exactly.
And the burrito's like 30 minutes away, and you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was you learned. It's like what you considered luxury. What I considered luxury back then is just crazy. Yeah. I was just like, oh my god, they got food backstage. That's nuts. Like I said, I loved it, and and to this day, like, it's a little different nowadays. I can't do that anymore, but I still love the whole idea of just traveling and seeing the world.
Oh, definitely.
While playing music, Yeah,
same here. I remember the first time I played a show and they were like, what kind of food would you guys like backstage? And I was completely blown away. I'm like, somebody is asking me what kind of food I want backstage in my green room?
Yeah.
That was like, when that happened years ago, I was like going, I have transitioned to another level. Exactly. I am now important.
It's nuts. And I hope I never lose that humility. And I want, like I said, I want to take everything in, and I want to be grateful for everything, even those little things, like when they bring food backstage, you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. I hope I never get over that.
Exactly. What are you looking forward to accomplishing the most moving forward?
To travel the world, play music, make records. But I think, I don't know, I would love to absolutely be a full-time musician one day. I don't know if that'll ever happen. And, and it's, like I said, I'm middle-aged now, I've been playing in bands, for 25 years. So I don't know. I try to be realistic, and I don't think it'll ever happen. But I think as the years go by, I get more and more comfortable with that idea that it may not happen. And I still feel fortunate enough that I can create music. I can still travel and play, maybe not to the extent that I thought, but it is still a possibility. So I'm just happy and grateful for that. Um, so as long as I keep going, uh, I think I will be satisfied in the end. You know, I just yeah I you know I quitting or stopping making music has never been an option for me, and so yeah. So I think as long as I keep going and keep writing, keep playing, it'll be cool.
And, you know, that's an attainable goal, like being
Yeah.
able to do your music full time. Right there, it's like you can, hey, if you put your mind to it, positive mindset, make it happen, will it into existence, it will happen. There's a lot of artists and musicians out there. I think that right there is one of the end results, you know, where you
Yeah.
can just do what you love all day long, every day. It's like, you know, some artists are like, I wish I could tour for the rest of time.
Hmm.
Some other artists are like, going, I wish I could just, you know, make music full time. Other artists are like, I wish I could just score movies for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
Um, those
Some
things are
artists
good.
are just happy with never having to set foot on a stage. You know, like to some people that is their dream, their perfect dream. If I can just work on music in my studio, my own personal space for the rest of my life, that's like to them that's heaven, you know.
Yeah,
So, you know,
yeah,
it's like everybody has their own idea of what the perfect music career looks like. You know, so it's just yeah, to me it does involve I mean, I think playing for me, playing live, traveling, playing shows is the end game. You know, it's kind of like to me like this is what everything, all the hard work kind of just, you know, focuses into that one event, that one show. And so that's what I like.
well, yeah. I mean, I was speaking on an early interview with Thought Beans, and his thing was like, the one thing that he really wanted to accomplish next was to get on a blockbuster movie. Like that was his thing, like blockbuster
Right.
movies. Like that's, you know, it's like that was his big goal. That's what he wanted, you know. So it's like,
Yeah.
remember, everybody out there, remember this. Your successes are not the same successes as somebody else's. Just because somebody is doing something that may look awesome to you, but it's not really the thing that you're striving for, don't feel bad about that. It's
Yeah.
like what you choose to focus your time into is yours. So
Mhm.
don't try to, you know, say, "Oh, I want this because this other person has it." No, find out what you want inside as an
Right.
artist. Find out what you want, what makes you happy. And if that's going on tour for the rest of your time, working from your home studio for the rest of the time, or, you know, whatever it is, make the most of it and make it happen, because you can will it into existence if you truly believe it and you work hard enough.
I 100% agree with that. And I would also add the more you know and the more you can narrow down what it is that you want specifically, you know, instead of generalize going, oh, I want to be a full-time musician. Uh, but narrow it down. Like, what kind of full-time musician? What exactly do you want to accomplish or achieve? The more you narrow that down, the easier it is, you know, in my opinion, to obtain that goal. You know, it's a lot easier to attain one specific goal rather than one just generic, you know, idea. You know, because then you can set kind of markers, you know, markers for yourself rather than saying, oh, I want to be a rock star. Okay, well, how do you measure that? How do you measure your progress? You know,
Yeah.
you know, it's just when you wake up one day a millionaire and you got girls and cars and a mansion. I mean, so focus in on exactly what it is that you want to achieve, and then you can set markers to kind of give yourself, I want to, you know, so you can see your own progression, and you know, you can look back and be like, wow, I've really come a long way. Maybe I'm not quite there yet, but I look at where I was 2 years ago and here I am now. You know, that's something to be proud of. I think
Exactly.
I like that.
I mean, I think that, it's funny when you say I want to be a rock star. I think it just narrows down to like people saying I just want notoriety. I just want to be known for something. You know what I
Same.
mean? And I want to get attention from people.
Yeah,
So it's like notoriety. Like, do you really want to be a rock star, or do you just want notoriety? Like, is that what kind of find out, focus on what you want. It's like, as
yeah.
being a musician, it's like narrow it down, finding out what aspect of being a musician or somebody who creates stuff, finding out what that aspect is and exploiting that aspect and making it the best it can be.
I agree.
What positive message would you give your fans out there?
I feel like I'm in the same boat as everybody else. I mean, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm not, I have no wisdom to offer, but what helps me, like I said, earlier, is trying new things like music. I mean, music has been there for me. My earliest memories are just of music, and it's always helped me through tough times in my life. And I think, right now is a perfect time to kind of just, you know, um, submerge yourself into something, whether it be music or drawing or writing or reading. I think if you take this time to do something positive, I think it'll help with your sanity. That's what keeps me sane. Doing a little bit of things just to kind of keep me busy. It's not like you're doing this to forget. You want to be aware of what's going on. It's not like, hey, let's get drunk and forget about our problems. It's just, I think if you do something positive, like, finding new ways, new inspiration, expanding, ideas, and the best way to do that is by trying new things, so I think that'll be cool.
So everybody out there, wise words right here from Alan, everybody. Find out what you want to do, especially now during this time with everything. Find a way to make things positive in whatever way you can, creatively. It's with everything happening in the world, it's really hard, I think, sometimes for us to get into the right mindset, this positive mindset. But if we all take the time to really look inward and focus our energy inward, and kind of look for what we want out of life, we can really make some amazing stuff. To everybody who creates out there, everybody who builds, everybody who tinkers, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're working on, okay, keep doing it. And for people out there who haven't found that thing that they want to do yet, or haven't found the time to do that thing yet, try to make time and figure out what you want to do. Figure out what you want to explore next. Because when you do, you can really create some amazing stuff. You really can. So thank you so much for taking this time to sit down and do this interview today, Alan. Thank you to everybody out there who took the time to tune in and watch us have this conversation. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our Fiend YouTube channel, as we have many more awesome artist interviews on the way, just like this one. So I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon, Alan, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it for having me. It was awesome.
And everybody out there, be sure to get your hands on Years Later right here by Em Riot. It's out on all major platforms. You get on Bandcamp, Spotify, all these different places to stream it or buy it, wherever you need to. They also have pre-orders for vinyl, mini disc, cassette, all of that stuff out on NewRetroWave Records. So get out there, check it out, listen to it in its entirety, because it really will take you on a journey. So thank you so much, Alan, and I will see you again soon.